So a lot of our understanding of drugs and people who use them have been shaped by our religious traditions. And sometimes that's been for the best, right? We know that participation in a religious community, that connection to other people, the support that you get, the ways that that's able to provide you with opportunities in life, as well as support when things go wrong, reduce the likelihood of problematic substance use in the future. And it also is preventative. We know that people who are participating in these sorts of communities are less likely to develop substance use disorders, and if they do, they've got that support system to help them. And at the same time, we can also see the other side in ways that these communities can develop understandings that are highly judgmental, that are punitive, or even believe that people who use drugs somehow deserve all of these negative consequences. Or when we see people die of overdoses, that somehow that's the will of God. And so my hope is to engage faith communities in a way that we can draw out some of these best factors and to understand that that kind of support, that kind of love matters. And our faith communities can be epicenters for that, for our towns, cities, and countries. And at the same time, engage directly to say, at the heart of all of our faith traditions are these ways of understanding different behaviors that can sometimes be harmful, but also have the possibility for hope. We don't stay in those places where people are ostracized and othered. We can always create these larger circles that welcome people in. I got a chance recently to talk to someone who's been on the front lines of drug policy and addiction policy in the United States for decades. And they said that they think one of the biggest things holding us back is the fact that we have these religious traditions that have so much to offer. And we have these scientific advancements that are incredibly important. Then we can have these great evidence-based methods moving forward, but if they don't respect the person, we won't actually see the improvements that we expect on a piece of paper. And at the same time, we need to see our religious communities and challenge ourselves to make sure that we aren't holding on to old ideologies at the expense of new scientific and medical understandings, and that we can blend our faith and scientific understandings. They don't need to be enemies. They can be complementary forces that drive us together as communities. So for my own Christian tradition, it's been a place that I simultaneously have struggled and found the deepest strength. And what has shaped my journey more than anything is my understanding of the cross and resurrection. And at the depth of who we are, what I believe the cross says to us is that violence is not the most powerful force in our world. But what I think this story teaches us is that the reality of resurrection is that it is love, it is hope in a sacrificial way that has the possibility of changing the world the most. And so when I see how we treat people who use drugs, how we treat people who are addicted, so often it is met with force and violence. If we can only make it harder for you, if we lock up enough people, if we make the consequences big enough, finally we will change this situation. But I believe there is a resurrection that teaches something completely different. That the most transformative thing that has ever happened in my life was not something that I earned, was not something that I had to work for, but was a free gift of grace. And that is something that I believe is true of my religious tradition, but I also believe it's true because it describes how we function as humans. The ways that we have changed the most are not the times when we've been blamed, shamed, or forced. It's when we've seen a greater vision for what our life can be, and we've been surrounded by the loving, compassionate relationships that help us achieve those new goals. And so it's true in our religious traditions, and I think it can transform who we are as a culture, a society, and our public policy.